But our next speakers are going to be pretty brief. And they know and they understand the relationship between customers and making them feel sustained and full and refreshed. So we're not going to keep you too much longer. Our next speakers are going to give you a presentation based on the work that they've been doing. There's a building just behind us here, and it says the Future Supermarket. Well, I have to tell you, Expo, you've got it wrong. I've seen the Future Supermarket, and it's not in the Expo. It's in a city in England. It's called Brighton, and they have kind of redefined what a supermarket might look like as a social enterprise. They're dynamic, they're desperately young, and they're my good friends. So I'd like you to welcome our last speakers until the coffee break, Ruth and Amy Anslow. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. There's quite a lot of them, Ruth. There's quite a lot of people out there.
There's a lot of people out there.
Hi. Ciao. Green one. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. We are sisters, Ruth and Amy Anslow from Brighton. It's pretty surreal for us to be up here following these great dignitaries. It's kind of like a dream come true and a bit weird at the same time. Our faces look huge up here, I'm sorry. But we're Ruth and Amy, and along with our great friend Jack, we are the founders and directors of hiSbe Food CIC in the UK. And the first thing we want to do is say a big thank you. We are very grateful and very proud to be here today. And we have to thank our hosts and Peter Holbrook, thank you, for giving us this forum to talk about our passion, which is doing good through business. Why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we here? We're here because we're reinventing the way UK supermarkets do business. Why? Well, we think the way UK supermarkets do business is creating problems for our society. Problems of social cohesion, problems of public health, problems for local economies and local communities. In fact, in the UK, our supermarkets have become so big and powerful that they're making society pay for the way they do business. The issue is that their business model is far too heavily reliant on the over-industrialization of food, intensive factory farming, cheap labor, and cheap oil. Their business model creates enormous waste and inefficiency. It's devaluing workers, and it's putting British farmers out of business every week. And it's failing customers by making over-processed bad food normal.
But what if you could transform the way that the UK retails food so that it was designed to serve the interests of the British people instead of the interests of those big supermarkets? What if you created a new type of supermarket from a starting point of how a supermarket should be? You'd design that business to be socially responsible, wouldn't you? You'd make sure it put people first, that it made a fair profit, and that it championed a fair and sustainable food industry. Well, that's what we're doing. hiSbe stands for how it should be, and we're reinventing the way that UK supermarkets do business. We're challenging how it is with our vision of how it should be. We're smashing Britain's out-of-date supermarket model with a new type of supermarket for the 21st century. Our company, hiSbe Food CIC, is creating a chain of independent community supermarkets based on a social enterprise model. So we don't prioritise delivering short-term profits for our directors and shareholders, like our competitors do. We focus on making a positive contribution to the food system and to local economies. So when you shop at hiSbe, you're voting for a supermarket that's fit for the 21st century. And we're using your money to transform the food industry with responsible, fair, and sustainable sourcing and trading.
And here is our baby. We opened our pilot store in Brighton in December 2013, so it's 18 months old. And this is a very large store. It's 280 square meters in a cheap part of town that's kind of recovering from being run down. So it was very important for us. The location was always very important for us because it's about making good food more affordable. It's about tipping good food into the mainstream and making it accessible for everyday Brits. It's aimed at people on everyday diets and average shopping budgets. You see, we're not another Whole Foods. We're not a vegetarian store or a vegan store. We're not a health food store or a Holland & Barrett, as you'd know in the UK. It's a supermarket. It's a supermarket how it should be. A supermarket that sells everyday groceries that people buy every week. It's just that everything is very thoughtfully sourced. We focus on local, seasonal, high welfare, sustainable fish, fair trade as far as possible, all the good values that drive the good food movement. We put all the good stuff in one place, under one very blue roof, and we make it more affordable. We make it more affordable by eroding the high profit margins and the high prices normally associated with good food.
We spent 3 years developing hiSbe from a concept to what's now a scalable business, and we worked with our third director, Jack Simmons, to develop all elements of the business, from the branding to the business plan, the store design, and the sourcing policy. But crucially, we harnessed support from thousands of people across the UK and abroad to raise the £200,000 that we needed to open the pilot store. That included a £30,000 chunk from a crowdfunding campaign. We worked with BuzzBank, and we were BuzzBank's most successful crowdfunding campaign to date in terms of number of supporters. So we raised £30,000 through the crowdfunding, and we sold money off vouchers for the store before it had opened. We had our fingers crossed that it would, so those vouchers are now being made good on. So basically, we wanted to create a rallying cry for a better type of supermarket, and we attracted a following of eager customers ready to shop with us when we opened by using the crowdfunding campaign. So we opened the pilot store by cooperating transparently with the community rather than forcing a store onto communities, which is pretty typical of the way some of the big UK supermarkets behave, including bribing local councils to get themselves into communities where they're not wanted. So hiSbe Food CIC is now in its 18th month of trading. We've turned over almost £1.2 million, £1.7 million euros in that period, and we're serving about 2,700 customers a week, and the store is a roaring success, loved by its customers. The staff are the friendliest and most talked about team in Brighton. So we're very proud to be creating positive social impact in many ways. The store not only benefits our customers, but also 80 local and independent producers that are able to sell their products through our store. And we've created 15 rewarding jobs. Everybody in the business is paid above the living wage. We serve the local economy by prioritising local food suppliers and service providers and supporting local food entrepreneurs. And we take a real pride in bringing positive change to what was a very rundown area and being a beacon for social enterprise within the city of Brighton and Hove.
And now we're getting ambitious. Now we are starting the expansion of hiSbe by opening new stores. We have a highly committed self-managing team in place in the store. We've got the relationships in place and the processes in place that we need to start expansion. We're achieving our targets, we're commercially viable, and we're proving that people want a hiSbe store. They want an alternative to high street Tesco's and Lidl's and Sainsbury's. And so over the next 30 years, we intend to grow hiSbe into a national chain of stores that transforms the food industry with our vision of how it should be. We're creating a fair, responsible, and sustainable food industry by helping shoppers use their money for good and explaining that it's about social enterprise. After all, like anything else, supermarkets are only the way they are because someone made them that way. Over the last 30 years, people have been highly motivated and worked very hard to perpetuate that model, and now it's time for something new. It's time to transform the British supermarket business model now, because the issues that we're facing in public health and social cohesion are only getting worse, and also because the Brits are becoming more aware. There's a growing understanding that they can help change the food industry for the better with the shopping choices that they make. So we don't just want hiSbe to be an example of how a supermarket should be. We want it to be a leading example of a social enterprise with big ambitions that can bring disruptive innovation that can transform whole industries. What do we mean by disruptive innovation? Well, change comes in two forms, doesn't it? It's either changing the system from within to a better way, or it's coming with something different, something truly innovative that makes a new model that blows apart the old one. And there are many good people in this room doing both forms, right? You've got many people here working within government or big companies to improve the way they work. And there are many budding social entrepreneurs here working on new models. Well, we think both forms are necessary, but of course we're a bit biased. We think that truly transformative innovation comes when innovators start something new with a blank piece of paper, like we did. We didn't have a bloody clue how to open a supermarket when we started. We just knew that it had to be done. So when people break the accepted convention with their vision of how it should be, that has the power to transform whole industries. Because once they set that vision out there, it attracts people who help. And so there are millions of these innovators in the world out there right now, and we're talking about ordinary people, right? We're talking about people like me and Amy who just got really annoyed with the way something was and decided to change it. And Peter described them as bridges, but actually we kind of think of them as lighthouses. People are building their vision, their lighthouse, their idea of how it should be, and communicating that idea far and wide. And once you switch on that light, it attracts other people, people who care, people who believe in what you're doing, people who support you and make it happen.
And that's what we did, because hiSbe all started with just a little blog. When Ruth and I sat at our desks in our little flat in Brighton in late 2010, we knew, as Ruth said, absolutely nothing about starting a business, much less about starting a chain of supermarkets for the 21st century. We knew only that it started with having a very clear idea of how a supermarket should be and having a strong set of values, or at hiSbe we call them foundations. And we knew that we needed a lot of help and a lot of money from people who cared about the impact of the things that we were looking to address. So we used our blog to connect with people into food issues nationally and locally by networking online and offline, and that blog became the voice of hiSbe. We used it to point out issues in the food industry and suggest how people could use their money, the money that they spend on food each week, to vote for a better food system. We used it to build our lighthouse, our beacon for change. And so we slowly built our brand from a little voice into a big shout for a better kind of food system. And the light from our lighthouse attracted lots and lots of people who wanted to help, people in the community around us, and as I said, from all over the country, who wanted to see a different kind of supermarket, who recognised that the big four needed to either transform themselves, which was going to be akin to turning around an oil tanker, especially with the urgency of the issues that are at stake here. They recognised that it was time for innovation and something new, and they came to support us. Thousands of people brought their skills, abilities and knowledge to fill the gaps that Ruth and I had, and to help make the hiSbe pilot store happen. They gave us their time and they trusted us with their money, and they joined our crowd so that together we could open the pilot store. And so now we invite you to use hiSbe as an example of how conventions can be broken and how people can challenge assumptions of what's possible. It's an example of what can be. So to the innovators, we say, get worked up about something, notice how it is, consider how it should be, and then build your lighthouse for a better way and switch on that beam. Set out your vision, tell people about it, because people will care and they will come and help you. And to the people who want to see things change, we say you are the change makers. You make it happen by giving your skills and abilities and time and money. So look out for all the lighthouse beams that are switched on in all the areas that you're interested in seeing transformation, and follow those beams back and find the people behind the ideas and help them to change things for the better. Be transformative, because that is the power of social enterprise. That's why we agree that social enterprise is the future of business. And we think that's what it takes to change the world. A determination to transform how it is, a vision of how it should be, and a lighthouse on full beam for all to see. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. Weren't they fabulous? Weren't they fabulous? Amazing. Okay, right, now I've got some great news for you, and that is coffee is finally served. So if you could do me a favor, if you could make your way out to the back of the hall, turn right. Coffee is actually served outside, so you'll even get to see some of this delicious and wonderful sunshine. Come back in 15 minutes if that's possible. We're running about half an hour late, so I would ask you to drink your coffee, use the lavatory, and find your way back into the room for the final session of this afternoon. Thank you.